You know, and you always see him coming in there, like a big beard, you know, with, like Abraham Lincoln, and a straw hat on, and you know, usually suspenders, and they're just going around rebuilding the whole town. You know, it's
Wow.
funny. But anyway, Dawn, you had a wonderful dream. I don't know if we're done with Roy's dream yet. We might want to just review Roy's dream real quick, and then we'll do Dawn. Dawn's was fabulous, by the way. I was talking with, I did a session with Charles on Saturday night, and I was telling him about, you know, Dawn's dream, and Dawn was thinking that I mean, I'm just telling Dawn, there's no way you can make up these dreams. I'll tell you, you know, she was thinking maybe that they're so good, you'd think they were made up, but the Jung had a patient one time who would make up all his dreams. And after about 6 months of analysis, he tells Jung, you know, I'm just making up all these dreams. And he says, oh, I knew that the first day. So anyway,
Yeah. Can't fool Jung on
no,
dreams.
he couldn't feel him. It was, but then the fact that Jung said they're still, even though you made them up. See, here's another thing: we don't remember the dreams exactly, and what we do is we add a few details, or we try to fill in the blanks with what we think probably happened. But Jung said that's great. That doesn't hurt anything to do that.
Yeah, I think reality is like that too. The brain works like that. I mean, we have to fill in stuff.
Yeah, we just fill in a little bit of stuff,
Yeah.
and but he says that's fine. And actually, the fact that this guy found out that Jung knew he was lying all this time, but thought it didn't bother him, was actually made him you know, he started to cry. He was so moved.
Wow.
You know, but anyway, let's just kind of go through Charles' dream real quick. I mean, not Charles, but Roy's. So it's about you got the goose. So in a dream, now this is such a great dream. You know they in the dream, you know, it is said that Jung stepped into a landscape, and this was one of his first active imaginations. You know, is to step into a landscape. Hi, Gary.
Hey,
How you doing?
good.
Yeah. Well, we're just gonna review Roy's dream. We kind of did it a little bit. Let me see if I can put it in the chat. It has this really strange. Oh, did you sent me one of Stuart dream?
Yeah,
dreams?
I didn't know if you saw that today in C.G. Jung and the Creative Bridge.
No, I did not.
Stuart posted this dream he had. It's really something else.
He has the greatest dreams. Have either of you talked to Stuart lately?
I
Probably not. Oh, go ahead.
Talked to him last week.
Oh, how's he doing?
Oh, he's doing good. He bought a new dam for fishing.
Yeah, well,
very important that, you know.
Well, we'll definitely discuss Stuart's dream, but yeah, he kind of got upset with me, and I don't know why. I didn't say anything. He just thought I was stubborn, you know, because I wouldn't. I guess you know the thing is I never. He thought everything was shadow work, and this is kind of in Gestalt, you know. And I said, well, I don't think it's shadow work. I think it's, you know, my main focus is to create the symbol. I don't really want to do shadow work. And he just said I was stubborn and didn't want to face my shadow, which I don't know. I don't really have much of a shadow. I probably do, but I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that's interesting. Have you done any sessions with what's his
Patrick?
name? Patrick.
Patrick?
Yeah,
No, no.
yeah, yeah. That was a shame. I thought we betrayed him, because he seemed like he was enjoying himself so much. That Don Stewart was a guy from Ireland, and he's a medium, and he has this wonderful relationship with with Patrick, who's was a priest from probably the Middle Ages or something. I don't know, but he has a really good knowledge of the other world. But that was one thing I told uh, Patrick is this doesn't really help us here. I mean, it'll have, it's very interesting and everything, but it had just a slightly morbid quality. Oh, you do remember Stewart and his Patrick. Good. Yeah. Anyway, it was fabulous. I do miss it, but I mean, he'd have these long discussions with me, and I mean, at the end of it, he would just get mad at me. So anyway, let's just finish Roy's dream. Okay, so the whole idea was that in Christiana Morgan can step into. Can you resend that to me, because I can't find your email right now?
Okay, I'm going to try to do that.
Yeah, and I'll just put it in the chat.
I might be able to get it in there. Let's see.
Yeah. See if you can put
See
it.
what happens.
Yeah, just copy it. I go Control C, highlight it, hit Control C, and then in the chat just hit Control V as in Victor.
P is in paste.
V is in vase. Yes. Well, anyway, and by the way, Dawn had a fabulous dream. It was just unbelievable, which I will try to get here in just a second. And of course, Tim has a dream. He might stop in a little bit later, but just so there was a Christiana Morgan, Young told her that what he did is first all he could ever imagine were landscapes in his visioning, and then he stepped into them, and he was telling her that was a kind of a hint, although she was so good at active imagination, it was crazy. Her and a few other people did it together. One of the best there ever was, I think. But anyway, so in Roy's dream, he's driving a truck, and it was a work and toil truck. So his ego vehicle has to do with work and toil. And I think one thing we find about Roy's dreams is they have a very instinctive quality. They're related to the plant world and they're related to the animal world, and not so much to. So, I think the highest value in Roy's life tends to be in nature, in either plants or animals. Sometimes, I mean, it just seems, I don't know, Roy, you can correct me on that, but there just seems to be a lot of instinctive elements. So in the dream, he's driving this work and toil truck, that's his ego. And all of a sudden, he remembered what Young, lucidly in the dream, told Morgan about stepping in a landscape. And so as he was driving his truck through a desolate landscape, he just stopped the truck and got out and went walking in the landscape, just like Young did, But then Roy said right after that, then it was just a normal dream. But that one element seemed to be lucid. And so then he was walking along a ridge. He was walking along a ridge to the east. So he was going towards the dawn times. And he went to the top of the ridge, but not past it. At the top, very interesting, in this desolate landscape. And he kind of describes it as sort of the ones with tumbleweeds and bushes and shrubs and probably a few impala that you see out west or something like that, or maybe like something you'd see in in just along a very empty landscape. I think more than desolate, just empty. Do you think that's right, Roy? You said it wasn't desolate; it's just empty.
Well, it was desolate when I was in the truck,
Yes.
but when I stopped the truck and walked into it, it wasn't desolate.
Yes. Okay. After that, and he sees the wheat. So you know, I'm saying, he's seeing the thing that the in the Isis mysteries and the Eleusinian mysteries, that's the mystery of the mass, is when they hold up the growing budded plant. So that was what was at the top of the ridge, and at the top is this what it looks like young wheat, and he thought that was strange because it was at the top of the ridge, after an ascent. There's the growing thing, and then he goes down to the river, and so he makes a descent, and he goes to the flowing stream of life, the flowing stream of the unconscious, which, as we know, it's not a lake, it's not a pond, it's not an ocean. It has an active aspect that none of those have. And the goose is the being that unites air, water, and land. So, it's like a hermetic bird. It can go through any of the realms. But then comes out of the stream, the river, comes a black and gold fish, one that it has the highest value and the lowest value. So it contains that. Black and gold is a wonderful complement of colors. And anyway, the big fish comes out and eats the goose. Okay, and so the unconscious being. Hi, Tim. We're just gonna kind of finish up with Roy's dream, and then since you just came, we'll go through your dream real quick. But I do want to at least introduce Dawn's dream. But I think Dawn's dream is going to take a while, but it's unbelievably good. Then, in fact, I'll put it in the chat, both dreams. Okay. So anyway, so this hermetic being, which unites the upper and the lower worlds, is eaten or assimilated, I would say, by the being of the water, the one that possesses the highest value and the lowest value in the unconscious, assimilates this sort of a hermetic being. So it's not all bad. And then after this, from that, we see some native boys who are searching for contents in seining the river, and then now we're following the river. After we went in the direction of dawn, we're going in the direction of death, and that's the end of the dream. So we're moving towards the westerly lands. And so really after the golden black fish, the one with the highest value and the lowest value, assimilates the magical goose, the one down by the river, then the human element appears. And the human element now is able to fish in the unconscious. But it seems to have been due to the unconscious assimilating a being of the air and the land and the water. So our unconscious, almost like, here's our unconscious. We're up in the upper realm. It's in the unconscious. And it needs to differentiate. And the way it first of all, it's gold and black already, so it's plenty differentiated. But it assimilates the being of the air and the land. So now the gold and black fish is also a being of the upper and middle realms. So our being in the unconscious is now has a great, profound power, and at that point, the human element appears. So it's sort of an individuation, a story of individuation. Um, Gary, do you have any comments about it? I wish I'm going to see while you're talking if I can find it, because I think
I sent it to you, Craig.
Oh,
I
you
was
sent it to
trying
me.
to do it myself, but I
That's no
don't know
problem.
how to do it. I
Yes.
put it in Google Documents.
Yes, I've got
I
it right
couldn't
here.
get it out to put on my
No
desktop to
problem.
do it. I don't know.
All
this stuff.
righty.
Yeah, I think I want to hold off any comments until I read through it.
Yes.
It was a
Okay.
little hard to follow all of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize on behalf of the Grand Budapest Hotel. Yeah, there we go. All right, that's the first part. And I got to go through the middle of, oh yeah, middle of its body. The back half, fish was black. There we go. So anyway, I mean, let me just review it again while we're talking here. And I'm going to put Tim's dream in too here. The idea here, I think, is that the ego consciousness has this lucid moment, and from knowing that Christiana Morgan was told by Jung that his first active imaginations were just of landscape, and then he somehow learned to, and we can do this too. You know, what I do is often is I have the landscape talk to me. You know, I say, "Good morning, landscape. Do you have any wisdom for me today?" And then I try to feel like I'm the trees and everything, and I answer myself. You know. But anyway, so while he's driving through a desolate landscape, which is more of an empty landscape, but it's dry, he says, "Well, I'm going to step in the landscape." So he pulls the ego vehicle, which is of work and toil. It's a truck, and that's what he's kind of defining his ego vehicle as, one of work and toil. He steps out of it, and now the landscape is not so desolate. In fact, at the highest ridge on the eastern side is the growing young wheat. So there's an aspect. This is very interesting in in Roy's dreams, that there is this always a instinctive or plant element. So he's very close to the earth. You know, I mean, I think unlike the rest of us, uh, I think he has a very closeness with the earth that we don't really have. And then at that point, he makes a descent to the flowing stream, like the one we saw in Tim's dream, and there he meets a goose, and the goose is the being, is a noble being. Um, Young, I mean, it was somebody said that a woman is most beautiful when she walks like an elephant or a goose. Have you ever seen a goose walk? You know, the way they kind of, there's just a certain uh, hypnotic rhythm to their steps. But anyway, it's a being of the upper realms, the lower realms, and the water realms, and the land. Okay, so it's this hermetic being which is in communication with all three worlds. Well, then this magical fish comes up, one that possesses the highest value and the lowest value, gold and black. It eats the goose, and that, so it's assimilating this magical being of the upper, the middle, and the lower realms. So now our informing wisdom in the depths now has assimilated the upper worlds as well. And after this happens, suddenly the human element appears. But these are native boys, and they are seining the river. So they're looking for treasure in the unconscious. That's what I do every morning when I do an active imagination, is look for treasure. Well, Gary, do you have any things to add to it now?
Wow, what a dream. So, okay, the human element is seining the river. And so to me, and yet we just saw, the goose, which is, sort of the conscious element, the thing that combines everything, has been taken into the depths, into the river. And now the human element is seining the river, is now looking for the new nuggets that may be present from this whole operation.
It can now assimilate them because the unconscious possesses spirit now. It is assimilated. The unconscious has brought. It says the unconscious contents long for the light. Okay, so the goose in some ways represents the ego attention, and it is now assimilated that, and at that point now the human element can assimilate the unconscious a little bit, but it's a very mysterious dream, I think.
Well, and I guess the other thing that strikes me is that the landscape looks like there's nothing there, but then when he stops and looks, the detail emerges, and
Yes.
there is the growing thing.
Yeah, what did it require? What did the desolate landscape lack? It lacked us.
Yeah.
And once we move into it, suddenly it becomes rich and with the growing young wheat. So the unconscious is waiting for us to step into it.
Right. And then the whole descent, once the attention is given, the growing thing and the descent into the depths is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is the descent into the depths possible, but it has the conscious element, which can then be, to me, it's like an integration with the unconscious, because it's been assimilated. Now they're fishing for the gold nuggets.
It is very profound. What I think is it has a little bit of a starkness of as far as language is concerned, but the wordless images are incredibly profound. What do you think, Tim?
I'm kind of reeling with just the magnificence of it.
Yes.
I'm going to have to chew on this because it seems really rich.
Well, one of the things is, and I mentioned that, is Tim's dreams tend to be elemental. They tend to have a very deep relationship with the earth, and in that case, they are they're not valuable, filled with language. They're filled with birds, with plants, with earth, unplanted fields.
You're talking about Roy's dreams.
Roy's dreams, yeah, that's what I meant. Who did I say? Oh,
you said Tim, but
Tim. Yeah, I meant Roy's dreams are filled with all of that. Roy, maybe you could give us some hint about this.
Yeah. Well, when I had the dream, the thing that really got me was when you was telling me about Christiana Morgan's trick. You see a landscape, you can just walk into it. And then very close to that, a night or two from that, and I was passed out dreaming, and I remembered that. And I just parked the truck and did it. That's the only time that's happened, but it was just remarkable. And I thought it was like a death dream, because Jung says are mostly Louise von Franz. She wrote a book on death and dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And people have dreams about death maybe a decade or 2 decades before they die. I remember my father had this remarkable dream. It was a death dream. I didn't know at the time, 15 years before he died. And I thought it was a death dream. I've had a couple, and I just put that in that category.
Yeah, it is. I think the main thing is, though, that it's a dream of a individuation. I mean, it seems to me like this is sort of representing your path to wholeness, you know, and by stepping into the landscape, you make it rich and verdant. Hi, Ivan, because you give it, once you stepped into attention into the thing, it becomes rich. And then you go down to the river, this magical fish comes up. The magical fish assimilates the spirit of the hermetic bird. And at that point, now it seems like a human element has entered in that wasn't there before. And yet it is still very close to the earth. You know, it is not, it has an uncivilized quality to it that is very elemental.
Well, Roy, I'm curious, what makes you think it's a death dream?
Well, the last part of the dream where I go to the west, the land of the
Yes, the
ancestors.
land of the west.
I knew
the
that.
Westerly lands.
I knew that. And also, I knew that I was blocked from the east. You know, I'd gone as far as I could go, and that world's gone. You know, that's what made me think that.
What Jung's last dream was that he saw a mother wolverine teaching her cubs to swim in the river. That was his last dream.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was sort of a way of operating in a new environment. So this is kind of a way of operating in a new environment, but let's not, although, you know, I want to tell you about Marie-Louise von Franz's book. It's called Dreams and Death. She said later that she had learned a forbidden secret about death that she couldn't tell anybody. And she said she thinks that's what gave her Parkinson's disease. Because right after she wrote that book, she acquired Parkinson's disease. And somebody who she told that to, well, can you tell us what the secret is? She says, hey, I already got, how many diseases do you want me to get here?
Yeah, Jung would not go deep into that subject. He tossed it over to Marie, but he wouldn't go there. He knew. You don't mess with that. You don't mess with that world.
She had a lot of, like she had one patient who had like 21 dreams, and she identified 13 of them as being visitations of her dead husband. And without any commentary, she took him to Jung and had him look at it. And he says, yeah, I think 13 of those are, that's her husband. You know, and then she had several dreams about her father, who, by the way, was on the Emperor of Austria's general staff, the imperial staff of the Emperor of the Austro-Hungary Empire, you know, and then after World War I, you know, it was divided up into Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and Austria. And what the Austrians said was that the Czechs got all the industry, the Skoda works and everything, and the Hungarians got all the agriculture, you know, and the Yugoslavians got the beautiful Adriatic coast. And he says, they said, all we got were scenery. But anyway, that's when he moved to Switzerland. And that's when Marie-Louise von Franz was born. And she had dreams about him where right after he died, she hears a knock on the door, and she wasn't she says this is a real visitation. He comes in, and she says she's about to tell him, you know, you're dead, Young. He says, I know I'm dead, you know, and he is going to go back to Vienna and learn to play the violin, which is what he always wanted to do. And so he goes and sits by the fire because he lacks human warmth. That's what she said. But he couldn't touch her. He says, we can't touch. And he also wouldn't sleep in his regular bedroom because he said that was not allowed either, you know. But anyway, it is going to the westerly lands, but I think there's also this this hopeful sign of the human element coming in there. And we can compare that to the dream of the shoe-billed stork and some of the other dreams that have a very shamanic self quality, like the golden black fish, but here the human elements come in a little bit, you know. So
I would also add that in the Lakota mythology, the West is the direction of courage and strength.
yes. Yeah, they have the 4 directions on their medicine wheel, you know, and I know my wife had somebody, we heard a talk at one of her AA meetings where it was a Native American, and he presented the 12 steps of AA to the village or tribal elders to see if they thought it was okay or not. And they said, oh yes, see, these represent the southern point, and these represent the western, these are the northern, and these are the eastern. So they broke the 12 steps up into 4 categories and told him what was east, south, west, and north. But anyway, that's pretty interesting. We got why don't we do Tim's dream, because and then I would like to do also Dawn's dream, at least introduce it. But
I suggest we do Dawn's first.
It's pretty long.
Well, she hasn't had a chance, it seems to me, for a while.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's okay. This is a very long. What's that?
I wanted to tell Tim that I have been. He thought I hadn't had a turn.
Oh, maybe I missed
did
the
have
session.
a turn, so he could.
Yeah, I think it's about your turn, Tim.
Oh, okay.
And yours is a little bit shorter.
All
and
right.
also, it's very close to me. This string of about 4 or 5 dreams you've had are absolutely linked. Do you want to read it to us real quick?
Yeah. I'm going to rent an apartment to a woman, but there's some kind of a delay and we need to stay overnight in a basement, perhaps owned by another woman. It's bleak with nothing but a bed and maybe perhaps a couch, which appears later. We negotiate our arrangement and go to bed. I fall asleep and I'm soon awakened because she's getting fresh with me, and I realize suddenly that we are both naked and I can see where this is headed. She's the aggressor, but somehow I've allowed myself to get into this position, which I'm curious about. And now I'm struggling with the ethical dilemma of this mixture of professional and personal. I'm caressing her back. I'm worried about violating my professional boundary when she assures me, it's okay, we're both sterile. I reluctantly convince myself it'll be okay. And then suddenly I'm on a couch across the room. There's another woman who's about to take me. It's about the same situation. I feel a sharp pain in my anus and realize she's trying to finger me with what I imagine is a sharp nail. I flinch away, but there's another guy laying along the top of the back of the couch, and she turns her attention to him and I slip away. And just then I notice there's this huge carpet of poison ivy all over much of the floor.
Yeah, well, I think as we go through this dream, I think you're going to find a lot of parallels with the dream of the diorama, the dream of the 4 women, and the crazy woman river, and also the one of the woman who, the rehearsal of a play that Tim was going to go to. And you tell me what you think. But at the beginning, we're going to rent an apartment to a woman, but there is a delay, some type of resistance in ego consciousness, and we need to stay overnight in the unconscious, in the basement, and it's the realm of the feminine. It's owned by another woman. So ego consciousness needs to make room for the feminine in its domicile, but there's resistance, okay? Now there's resistance to letting crazy woman be crazy woman at the Wild River, and the fact that all these women are obstacles also shows some disconnect from an aspect of the feminine that seems to be a little bit towards Actaeon and not towards that diagram by Neumann. There's just something going on that is not welcomed by the Great Mother, okay? And it's something that we need to work on. But anyway, they can make room for both of you in the unconscious, in the underworld, which is owned by the feminine anyway. So the feminine makes room for ego consciousness in her realm, not the other way around, because there's a delay. There's always a delay. My wife was supposed to take a plane trip and she kept missing it. So there's a resistance in her towards the spirit world. Now it's bleak. It's not this basement thing. There's nothing numinous about it. Kind of reminds me of Charles' lunar world that's about to envelop him. There's nothing here of the feminine that is numinous to the dream ego. And it's very stark. It's just a bed and a couch. And so it's unformed, undifferentiated, and barely suitable for either the feminine or the dream ego. And we negotiate an agreement and go to bed. Now, we fall asleep, but we're soon awakened, and she is wanting to unite with us. But now, is this going to be a union which produces the divine fruit, the divine child, the philosopher's stone? It doesn't appear to be. It appears to be a union only for the sake of pleasure, only for the sake of an orgasmic event or something like that, and so the ego and the feminine. Now, what her amazing statement here, which is this is something the feminine would when she says this, it has nothing to do. The uniting has nothing to do with producing the divine child. This is the whole idea of relationship with the feminine. It's both to ground us, to make us closer to the rooted world, closer to nature, which the ego consciousness, especially in males, is separated from, but also to produce the fruit. But she says, don't worry about that. We're both sterile. It's just a haunting statement to me, because what she's saying is, we're just going to be worried about pleasure here. That's all it's about, So this is not what uniting with the feminine is all about. It would be funny if Artemis had done this to Actaeon, when he comes and sees her bathing naked. Suddenly she says, "Don't worry, I'm sterile." But she can't do it because she is the one who bears fruit, and you don't unite with her for any other reason than producing a product from the union, not just for the pleasure of your own, what do they call that, autoerotic, uh, you know, something just it's a closed loop in our head that's going to provide us with momentary pleasure, but it's not transforming. It's not symbol creating, which is what the dreams are all about. And here the dreams are saying there is a disconnect between the symbol creating aspect of union with the feminine, and it's being diverted in a area that is not going to produce fruit. And this is symbolized to me by the bleakness, the non-numinous quality, and the ego feeling it's very eerie here, and there's something unusual about that. And remember, on Neumann's diagram, he has the transforming feminine, the one that produces the divine child, in the upper right, and in the lower left is the one of, this would be the one where it's more, where the ego wants stimulation. It wants stimulation, but it doesn't want transformation to produce the symbol, in other words, And so anyway, but yet the ego realizes that this is poisonous to it. It's going to poison it. And then at the end, the very carpet alone is poison ivy. And so when the ego decides finally that it needs to leave this situation, well, guess who shows up? Our stand-in when we are, so spiritual that we don't want to do it. The shadow shows up. He's perfectly willing for this interlude, and he's going to participate in it. So now the aspect of the very rough union with her, where that causes pain because of her nail, and the fact that it's a regression. See, the union is supposed to be with the generative parts of both the man and the woman, the creative aspect of the man and woman. You can identify it with organs, but it's the generative. But no, we're not going to do that. This is all about ego, So yeah, we don't need the generative organs here. We're going to do a really regression. In fact, we're going into some kind of it's like a black mass or something to do with.
It's kind of like a reverse rape.
Yes, or an infantile, something that is more, is not, it's not conducive of the divine production of the divine symbol. It's almost devilish. There's an aspect of it that's devilish, and remember the ego, the devil, is the personification of self-willed ego. So anyway, it's just now what I'm thinking, the relationships to the other aspect is the Great Mother in at least two of the dreams has barred us from the transformative feminine for some reason. The one in the diorama, she at least was not happy with us because we didn't understand something, And in the Crazy Woman River, we are aligning ourselves with, not with the wild feminine, the one that lives, that's close to nature. We're aligning with ego consciousness that wants to put the wild feminine in a insane asylum. Now, Tim, I don't know. I hope I haven't been causing any problems here, but I just think they're very, that the series here is amazing, And now we have to keep in mind Tim's relationship with the feminine has been going on for many, many, many years. Now, Roy, let's provide some perspective here, because I'm not sure. Again, we in a real analysis, we'd want biographical details. We can't ask those here, you know. So we're doing just symbolic work. What do you think, Roy?
Yeah, this reminds me of, I was listening to your talk Sunday, and Gary was having the exercise where you guys were picking these old art pictures, paintings, and meditating on them. And Tim was talking about the one that he picked. And as I recall, he said the way the people's bodies were, not the Parushas or whoever those guys were in the chairs, but the other people in the dream, their bodies was like grotesque and it like pained him. But I thought to myself, whoa, back then chairs were a luxury and people were in touch with their bodies. They didn't even have chairs. They just got to stand around and do things. And they were natural body movements that we used to have, but modern man's lost them. And Tim was totally out of touch with that. I was just amazed. And that reminds me of the dream here. There's some kind of disconnect with the body.
Well, I think the one thing we got to keep in mind here is the dream never lies. It's the only genuine thing we have. And it's speaking to us because it loves us. So it's saying something here very loving, but we have to find out what it is. What do you think, Gary?
I'm going to take quite a bit different approach than what you had.
Good. I don't like my approach. I think it sucks.
Well, okay, so we can't individuate alone. And in order to develop, we have to be able to be penetrated. And so although this looks very, sexual, I think there's an element here of, showing that, look, you're missing the feminine and you need this union. And, and because it takes place in such a barren place, and it shows that there's some sort of development maybe that's needed there. But so you fall asleep and you've attempted to maintain a distance, and it's like, no, you have to pay attention. We have to go through with this. So then you back out and you go to the couch, but then again, there's yet another woman there, and again, you're trying to avoid it, and she's like, well, if you won't penetrate the feminine's going to penetrate you. That was the anus thing. And I look at it like, this, to me, this looks like a dream of, it's a message that you need to be involved with the feminine in some way that you aren't. And this is like, a slap across the face. And then that the floor becomes poison ivy. This is like saying, if you move away, it will cause a lot of irritation, So it was almost like, what, you refuse this one, now you've refused this one. And then the other, the other person, the other male on the couch, I'm guessing that was probably, a shadow aspect. And so to me, this is saying like, well, if you continue to refuse, this rather natural thing, then the shadow will come in its place. So
happily, seems like.
Yeah, happily. So I think it's a different message than what Craig is saying.
Yeah, Tim, could you mention that thing that you told us one time? A woman told you about what intimacy was, and it had something to do with
Yeah, I was thinking
penetration.
of that comment that she said, intimacy is only for those who are willing to be penetrated. And that's why it's easier for women to arrive at that relational state, and it's harder for men. And I just was really struck by that. It just really feels um, accurate to me that we need to be open enough to be able to receive the reality of another person in order for the intimacy to really be reciprocal. And this is, I think, a really good application of that. You know, how else would I think it's a really great symbol of a man being penetrated.
Yes.
You know, as far as a symbol goes, I can't think of another one that would encapsulate that better.
You know, one thing that Young said, and then let's hear what Ivan said, is that the women tend, or the feminine tends, since it's close to the earth and in need of the spirit, union tends to be something that has a divine aspect to it. Always, there's always an aspect that they are communing with the upper realms, because with the masculine, whether he deserves it or not, represents a spiritual aspect, even though he's not very spiritual, you know, where the man tends to be in the upper airy realms anyway. And when he has to descend into the earth, he finds an aspect of that is slightly gross and slightly soiling of him. So after he's had union, he tends to fly back up to his spiritual realm and leave her there all alone, you know. And the woman absolutely can't believe it that this would happen. But anyway, you know, it's a kind of above my pay grade too, because I'm not exactly the most debonair human who ever lived. What do you think, Ivan?
I don't see the intimacy in the stream because it was an unwanted advance, and then there's this comment about the sterility, which is indicating that essentially, to me, that would indicate a lack of consequences. And I don't think there can be intimacy without any stake, right? If it doesn't matter, then where's the intimacy? So to me, this dream is maybe a little bit more about seeking pleasure without an aim for the higher good is poisonous, right?
That's kind of the reading I had on now, because we have to remember this is happening in the inner world, where there are consequences, you know, and they don't typically do things frivolously. Now, in the outer world, maybe we can get away with frivolous sex or whatever it is. But in the inner world, where we're dealing with divine figures, they're very mature and profound. So anyway, Tim, Dawn, go ahead.
Another thing that strikes me about it is this statement, you know, it's okay, we're both sterile.
That haunted me a little bit.
It seems really inauthentic for the feminine to be saying that. The only reason I can think of that she would say that is to talk the masculine into participating.
Especially the inner feminine, the divine feminine,
right,
is going to invite union without a fruit at the end of it, or consequence.
Yeah, it seems disingenuous. It seems like what she's trying to do is just talk the masculine into coming along.
Yeah, that's why the shadow comes in. The shadow might have said that, not her. It's contaminated.
Oh. Huh.
It could be, but the whole idea, I mean, the one thing I see in it And I guess because I'm looking at it from the point of view of the inner world. Now, if this was happening in the outer world, I think we'd have a totally different viewpoint of it, because it's not mythological in the outer world. It's accidental, you know. But in the inner world, when this happens, everything is symbolic and mythological. You know, in Gary's dream, where the anima is forming a smaller group and he's not in it. Now, if that happened in the outer world, it'd be one thing, but in the inner world, for our soul to not include us in her intimate group, it's a little unnerving, you know. So now, you know, here our soul in the inner world is telling us, hey, it's not about bearing fruit, you know. It's just let's have a roll in the hay here, you know. I mean, to me, it's only because it's where is the mythological element here, and why would the dream be pointing out this accidentalness of the outer world? Now, let's look at it from that point of view too, though. What would happen if it was an outer world event? But boy, I just can't see. You know, when you're talking to the feminine within yourself, you're talking with your soul, and she's the one who has the bridge to the divine world. And is she going to talk this way? I don't know. Well, anyway, let's. Roy, do you have any more comments on it? I think this is one we need to. Tim, I just don't think we've done justice to it yet.
Back to the Sunday talk on the Kundalini, the Muladhara, the root chakra. You can't get out of the root chakra. I mean, you got part of his root
while
chakra,
you're alive.
the hairy animal. And I think, you know, this happens to a lot of artists. They won't go back into the hairy animal because they're in this ideal thing. It's very difficult for them to accept that part of them is in the Muladhara and will never get out. And that's where you go to recharge yourself for your creativity and stuff. So, you know, it's quite a dilemma for an artist. I don't know exactly how they resolve it.
That's a really good point. Yeah. I'm eager to hear if Dawn has anything to say. I'd love to hear what a woman says about this situation.
Yeah, Dawn, go right ahead. If you just have a few comments.
No, I'm gonna skip this one. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, that's yeah. Dawn, Dawn is a little modest, overly modest, because she's pretty smart, but you know, the one thing and Tim, this is probably unfair, and we need to hear what you think of it as the living being who had this dream. But what I was trying to do is trying to line it up with these, because it seemed so similar to the previous 4 dreams, you know, that it was another, it was, you know, these recurring dreams of this kind of issue. Let's just try to describe the issues. The first issue is the feminine thinks that we don't understand the iceberg and its profundity. Okay. And then in the second dream, this woman outside the house says that we are not worthy to be in the house of the 4 women. You know, in the third dream, the woman close to nature, the wild woman by the river, who does not want to be imprisoned by something, the masculine ego, or by ego consciousness, let's say, and put in it's really protecting itself from her, you know, protecting itself from her wildness and her nature, and wants to contain it somewhere, you know, and she's not going to go along with it. And then the next dream, or we're going to go to the midnight rehearsal with the feminine in a ritual act. And again, this great mother figure comes out and bars us. So there's been these like 3 events of being barred by a very mature feminine consciousness from participation in what appears to be a growing thing, a growing union consciousness. So then we go into the bleak, dreary basement apartment with this woman who seems to be not divine at all. She's very loose, and all she cares about is momentary pleasure, and she's not at all concerned with producing the divine growing thing, which we were barred from in at least 2 dreams, and in one dream we wanted to contain. I don't know if it was a growing thing, but it at least was this wild nature aspect. And then the ego realizes how poisonous this is, wants to leave. The shadow says, don't worry, go ahead and leave. I got it. I'm on it, you know. And then the ego's intimation that it was poisonous was very accurate, because the ground is covered with poison, you know.
So Dawn says she has a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Dawn. Let me see if I can look at the chat. Okay, I do have a question. Okay, go ahead, Dawn.
You guys as men are trying to adopt a certain attitude so that your anima will have a relationship with you. So is it completely turned around for a female that I would have to try and adopt an attitude to where something that was male would receive me? Did that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we're going to look at the Ishtar dream in a second here, but I think what in your dream when you were falling, it seems to provide at least the elemental spiritual. It just happens to be not feminine, or I mean, the feminine is more conscious of the earthly aspects of being the life bearer, and what we call masculine tends to be disassociated from all of that, very stark and trying to order things. That's not life bearing, but it is meaning. It provides meaning, and it provides words. So it's sort of the god of words, you know, logos, you know. Now, the earth needs this meaning because it lacks it. The meaning in the upper realms lacks the earth. So it needs earth. So in the case of a person who's accidentally born a woman, like I'm accidentally born a man, I didn't ask to be born a man, but that's what I've got. What am I conscious of? I'm really disconnected from the earth. So that's what I lack. So that's what that is what I need to awaken in my unconscious. Now, a woman who's closer to the life-bearing aspect, what she needs to awaken in her unconscious is the archetype of meaning, which tends to be the animus, you know, and it needs to be her guiding star when she's falling. And the stream of Ishtar is so interesting because, you know, it has Thor, you know, the god of thunder, you know, the god of the sky, you know, the one with the thunderbolts, like Zeus, you know, and his unknown brother in the back seat. It's so beautiful. I mean, but Yes. And now my wife has been having all these dreams where she is supposed to take a plane off, and it was sort of like being in the pit, Dawn, and needing lift to get out of it. My wife is stuck in a little town where everybody's nuts and she wants to leave, but she can't, she keeps missing her plane. So there's this resistance to that aspect that can lift her out of the pit, you know. So,
I think of
yeah, go ahead.
the kind of the image of the anima for me is best described by Dante's Inferno, and you know the character of Beatrice is the guide to the underworld that brings him,
Psychopomp.
that brings him eventually into heaven. And I think of the fairy tale of the handless maiden, and so the animus figure I don't think has the same role for a woman as the anima does for a man. And in the handless maiden, the woman has been deprived of her hands, so she can't affect the world and has to be fitted with silver hands in order to come to resolution. So I think the animus has a different role than the anima does. I'm just trying to answer your question, Don. I don't know if
It has a more active principle. I mean, the one that Angel had, where it just keeps saying "go" everywhere she goes on the computer screen. Go on the you know, signs that she sees on the road. Go, you know, that's the hands of the handless maiden. You know, it's the active principle. The animus. Here's one thing Jung said about the animus. He says, why is the animus so much more elusive than the anima? And you find her everywhere, you know. And he says, because the anima very much enjoys sitting for her portrait, you know, like the Mona Lisa, you know. He says, but the animus is a clever fox. It covers its tracks with its tail, you know. So while it's walking along, it drags its tail behind it to cover its paw prints, you know. So the animus, and here's the other thing: the animus is now I don't really understand the animus. And Dawn, I think what we should do is spend a little bit of time with the book by Emma Young about the animus, so that we can all understand it better. But the animus usually provides to the woman four things. The one who provides the cow, that's the one of the deed, and the seed. So he provides milk and food and the baby. Okay. Then there is the second one, who's the dark man from across the sea that sweeps us off our feet and takes us on a romantic adventure. Okay, now that's a very important animus figure, and one that is awakened in a lot of us. And then there is the third one, which is sort of the priest-like one, the man of the word. He's the sort of the you know, the one like a judge or a lawyer or a policeman, some figure of authority, you know. And then the fourth one, which is the highest one, is the green man, you know, Merlin. You know, it's the one that's close to nature. So its spirit is not hairless. Its spirit sprouts like Jung did with all those green leaves, you know. And so it's not easy to understand, but I think in the case of a woman, the animus also is a bridge to the other world. Now, what's interesting to both men and women is that the unconscious is their bridge to the inner world and their bridge to the outer world. In the case of the man, it's the anima is the bridge to the divine world, the psychopomp, like Beatrice was, you know, and then there's the one that is the bridge to the outer world. It's what makes somebody get up off their butt and go out and work, and it's this attractive woman that they want to marry and have a family with, you know. So she's the bridge to the outer world as well, you know. But anyway, Tim, I think the one thing that we can say about this dream, because you know, it's sort of a little well, to me it was, especially when she says, "Don't worry, we're both sterile." The fact that this is the inner feminine speaking, and it follows those other four dreams, is definitely one that we want to stop, look, and listen with, you know. I mean, what do you have any sum up of it, Tim, that you can throw any light on it for us?
One thing that may be relevant is the next painting I was going to do. I'll show you a drawing of what I put together. I'm calling this the Temenos, and it's an island with a double bed in the middle, and this grove of sort of dark, scary looking trees around it. And often in the corner back here, you can see a little bit of a little sailboat that is just pulled up to the island.
Yeah, it almost looks like black fire, you know, the trees.
So it's interesting to me that this dream comes right when I'm working on this, because the Temenos is that kind of sacred place where something magical and mythical is going to happen. And it feels to me like this dream just fits right in with that.
Yeah, and I think we can easily go wrong with this dream. I think that was why the next dream is very vital to hear. So if you have any dreams following this one, I think we need to know it as soon as possible. Don't you, Tim? I think it'll really help guide this dream, because the dream, you know, has poisonous aspects in it. There's something is poisoning us, you know, and it doesn't. It's bleak. It kind of almost reminds me of that womb that Charles was having, that doesn't bear fruit. Well, when the unconscious doesn't bear fruit, that's something to pay attention to, you know, because the unconscious and us, that's our purpose, is to bear fruit. Did you have any now, Ivan, do you have any? Ivan, I thought we would go through Dawn's dream here, but if you could provide us a dream for next time, any dream you have, or the next time you're here, I will get ready for it. And as soon as you come next time, we'll just jump right in it.
Okay. Yeah. I might have one to share. I've had some weird dreams recently.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you, Ivan, I mean, I'm saying everybody here, I go away from here just with my jaw drops, because these dreams are fabulous. I mean, Roy's have a particular quality. Gary doesn't give us very many, but every one of them, the one, Roy, about where you approach, I mean, Gary, where you approach the stage and there is that young person there, that was so beautiful. You know, the children singing and thing, that was an absolutely beautiful dream. But anyway, why don't we just at least go through just mention Dawn's dream. This is a long one, but again, I think if we break it down, it's going to be fine, you know. Now, I'll read it, Dawn, if you don't mind. And I say this is very profound.
Could you
Okay,
put
now,
it in chat also?
I can, yes, it's very long, but I will put it in the chat. Let me see here. I emailed it. We'll see how much I can get in the chat. And
Oh, if you emailed it, I can look it up there.
yeah, all right, but I will put it in the chat too. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Note. Okay, there we go. All right. Now, Dawn, this dream, she just had it on the 19th, so it's not more than a week old, you know, so, and it's just crazy. I mean, the fact that it's so mythological. Let's see. Okay. And then, let's see, I think this will be the last part. Okay. Yeah, I think that is it. Yeah, okay. All right, well, let's just start on it, and we'll just go through it. I mean, you know, it's just going to be, it's an interesting little fairy tale. Okay, now we're in the vehicle of ego. You've got two passengers in the back seat. Apparently, just three people in the car, and behind the passenger, or the farthest away from ego, yet visible, sits Thor, the god of thunder. Okay, now this is a pretty powerful animus figure, you know, Thor, the god of thunder. He's the son of Wotan, and you know, and he's the god of the sky, but the one, you know, the one of great power, you know, the one of thunderbolts, you know, and the one. It's odd because the ego doesn't think this is any big deal. I'm just like, oh, Thor is in my car. Okay. So we're not really that impressed, you know. Now, in the seat behind me, and we don't know whether there's somebody there or not. So this is a typical unknown animus figure. We don't know if anyone's there, but we suspect it is Thor's brother. Okay. I don't know if you know anything about Thor's brother, Thor's unknown brother, but this could be Thor's unknown brother. But Thor's unknown brother was this beautiful boy named Baldur. And he had a dream that he was going to die. And his mother, Freya, goes to all the animals and all the plants in all the world and makes them all promise to leave Baldur alone. And she does. But then Loki, you know, who's this trickster figure, comes in, and so questions her, did everyone respond? Says, yeah, everybody but Mistletoe. But Mistletoe's too young. I don't think I can get Mistletoe to swear to leave Baldur alone because it's too unconscious. You know, it's too young. Well, so then he goes to somebody, has him make an arrow of with he puts mistletoe on it. They shoot Baldur with it, and he dies immediately. You know, and so anyway, that's Thor's brother. I don't know what it's how it's related to. Thor had two other brothers, but they came from primarily to replace Baldur, you know, and avenge him. So anyway, it's the unknown animus. Okay, now we seem to be more interested in the unknown animus, unseen animus that's behind. It's at our back, where we can see Thor, but he's off to the side, and now we go down. Now this is where it gets interesting. We go down to the parking lot next to the store, and we see road signs that say, we're going towards Astarte or Ishtar. We're going towards the ancient great mother. car is, we got Thor in the back seat, his unseen brother behind us, we can't see him. And all the road signs says we're going to see the Great Mother. This is where our vehicle, our ego vehicle is going. This is amazing. And as we get closer and closer, more signs say that we're getting to her. And then when we finally get to the parking lot, we see her coming out of the store. Now, the store usually represents the middle realm between it's sort of a stand-in for the Philosopher's Stone, because it's this place of meeting of those who produce the fruit and those who need the fruit. You know, they bring their fruit to the middle place, and that's where we get it. And of course, that's where ego goes to get the fruit, because it can't go to where the fruit is produced in the unconscious, because it would disappear. So it goes to this middle realm, so now she's coming out of it. The Great Mother's coming out of it. And now she's not as impressive as we thought. You know, she's small. She looks Middle Eastern. So she's sort of related to, she's halfway between the East and West. You know, the Middle East is sort of this middle realm between, the Far East and Europe. You know, so it's sort of she is a middle realm person, and she's wearing a turban or headscarf. And you note I cannot name her by where she's Middle Eastern. As she approaches, her countenance feels like it grows and becomes apparent as a stream of blue color projects from her mouth. So her face, that's usually what we mean by countenance, becomes more distinct. A stream of blue color projects from her mouth. Now, Dawn mentioned this dream because she says a lot of her dreams have blue in them, you know. And now, blue tends to represent the thinking function or logos. And if you look up at the sky, what color is the sky? You know, it's blue. You know, it has this coolness that thinking has. You know, this rational thinking. It never gets emotional. You know, and it's blue, where the feeling function is fiery red. You know, it's just fiery red. It's not cool at all. You know, and so Ishtar or Astarte or the Great Mother seems to be one who possesses spirit. She's like the gold and black fish that has swallowed the goose. You know, she possesses, she's a very completed being. You know, she's like the gold. If you swallow the bird of paradise, and you're a fish, and assimilate that, then you're a pretty magical fish. And if you are the Great Mother, who also has spirit pouring forth from your mouth, masculine spirit, you're a pretty completed being, you know. And yet she's small and is not as impressive as we thought. And so then the setting changes, and we see a woman, a regular woman, whom we don't know. She's coming towards my direction where there's a sink. Now she has tubes of blood, and she's desperately trying to dump them down the drain. So, you know, it seems to be there's an aspect of us that is taking the vital essence of life and pouring it down the drain, the blood aspect. And the dream actually says this in a second. You know, she says it's her brother's blood, and these people who were following her had got it from her brother to use it to heal themselves, and she wasn't going to let that happen. So her brother, or the life essence of some animus presence, the life vessel of the the life essence of the redeeming thing. The shadow does not want anybody to have it, and she just pours it down the sink. And the idea seems repulsive that she just dumps it down the drain. And as you see the blood swirling down, going into the drain, you have this feeling that it is wasted. Okay, now that was the dream. And then she had Dawn had a hypnagogic image, involved colors, and the meeting was about chakras. And she thought it made sense to associate them. The image was of two strips of color coming together, one blue and one red. Well, that's feeling and thinking, you know, and each had a simple multiplication equation associated with it or inside. This is just beautiful. In the middle where they touched, okay, the transcendent function, okay, that's mathematical, you know, and it's, I became too alert and it faded. The red and blue made purple in the middle where they touched. And no dream remembered that night, but had another hypnagogic image. This time you saw an empty blue bowl coming out of my fridge. In real life, that is an aggravating thing to find because empty bowls don't belong in the fridge. And yeah, my wife doesn't like that either. So anyway, there is again, it's a blue thing. The blue bowl is empty. The blue bowl needs to either be filled or it doesn't. It's empty. One of the two needs to be filled. Probably needs to be filled with feeling. You know, this is that the animus needs our feeling function to animate itself, and until we give ourselves to the animus, it's an empty blue bowl. You know, I'm not. Now that's kind of just throwing it out there. Now, any quick comments on this? Because it's going to take us probably 30, 40 minutes to do this. Go ahead, Tim.
The first thing that strikes me is it feels to me like the blood is this rare element that the masculine hardly ever gives up. And so the feeling that it's going to be wasted is exactly right, that there's some healing capacity that is going down the drain and it's right there and you have access to it. It's just a matter of trying to figure out what the magical element is that will allow that to be assimilated. It feels, especially her pouring it down the drain, feels like a menstruation, like an ominous menstruation. And there's something really rich and potential about it that if this were my image, and especially with the blue bowl being empty, it seems like that's the perfect place for the blood to go. If it were my image, I'd spend some time dialoguing with those elements and seeing if there's a way to unfold what's being wasted. How can this be?
What you said that was absolutely amazing, Tim, is the bloodless logos function is giving red blood. So it's very precious. And yet the shadow is pouring it down the drain. That is, and then we see the empty blue bowl too. So, I mean, what you said at the beginning, that the bloodless logos function, its blood is very rare and very valuable. You know, isn't that beautiful? I just think that was a beautiful statement. Roy or Gary, do you have any comments about it? That's just wonderful. It's wonderful.
I mean, the image of Thor in the car, I mean, Thor, you know, thunder. I mean, this is like announcing momentous events.
Yes.
And then going to this shopping place, you know, the sort of the middle, you know, the transition to the middle realm where Ishtar, and the great mother will be making her appearance. But something's wrong there, because, the ability to perceive what she is somewhat tainted. Just like maybe the shadow carrying the blood is also somewhat tainted, in that, they don't realize the importance of this. So it's like there's some sort of incorrect perception of something that is causing this strange way of seeing things. And yet it's like this, it's a momentous event that needs to be seen in its own special right.
Well, it's amazing. We got the thunder god in the back seat, but he doesn't interest us at all. It's his mysterious unknown brother that is fascinating, that we want to know more about.
Well, but that actually might make sense, because that would be like the relating function, and we want to know what Thor relates to. And so it's like, it's this familial thing. So, we're looking, okay, here's Thor, but where's his relating? What does he relate to? And the dream kind of filled in, the invisible brother.
Yeah. I mean, and then, the image of the bloodless logos, blood being thrown down. I mean, that whole, and I'm just reeling with how we can tie this together when we're done. I mean, I don't. Roy and Ivan, do you have any comments on it?
Yeah, I'm relating to this protector persecutor thing, self-care system. Now I'm relating Thor to the real spirit, but she doesn't recognize him, just like the spirit that was taking her out of the pit. And Thor's brother, I'm saying, is the black gentleman, a sort of a shadow animus figure, which she recognizes. And then Astar, she doesn't recognize her. It's like a cohort of Thor. But no, she goes with the other woman, but she sees the power that Astar has coming out of her mouth. She recognizes that at least Astar has power, spirit. And then this other woman is like Thor's brother's cohort. And then the personal spirit just gets poured down the drain. So she's back in the pit. So I'm relating this to the other dream. You see where I'm coming from, how I'm putting that together?
Yeah, definitely. And the blue and the red and the empty bowl and the blood and the regular woman and the Astarte and Thor and his unseen brother. They're all something that we're going to need to go around a couple times. Ivan, did you have any thoughts about it, or?
Not yet. I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Well, I would. You get a dream ready, and so you'll be next. But I want to say one thing about Tim's dream. It is so important, and I just don't think we've done justice to it. But I think the one thing about it that is definitely that we can go home with and feel that we've done something. It's almost the capstone of the previous 4 dreams. And how? I mean, I think that's the one thing that we can hold on to, that it is sort of the capstone of 4 previous dreams. Now, what would be really interesting is to have the enantiodromia of this dream in your next dream. That's going to give us a perspective. So take some melatonin and things. And Tim, did you have any final thoughts on that dream that you want to give us or not?
Well, the only thing that I didn't mention is this original idea of this woman being a renter. So she's going to come into my place of dwelling.
Share ego consciousness.
Right. And so the original invitation is she's going to come into my space. And somehow that's being deflected.
Resisted So then
Right.
ego consciousness goes to her place. And then something not good happens. Do you think
Yeah.
that, you see,
Well, I just wanted to bring in the renter deal, which I think is
yeah, the
important
renter
somehow.
is going to somehow, yeah, what does it mean for someone to pay us for a space in our house? You know, we're going to allow them to have a room, but they're going to need to give us psychic energy in order to have that dream. So I think the one who is renting a room in ego consciousness, we need psychic energy from them to make that pay. But then there's a resistance, the delay, and suddenly we end up in the cellar of another woman. So we're not, everything blew up on that first proposal. Then we go down into the depths of another woman, and then there is this mysterious play down there. Now, compare the mysterious play down there with the one that you were going to do with, was it Elise? Or, yeah, which was going to be this amazing play. So the four dreams, I think, are really speaking to each other, you know. But the thing I feel sort of that we haven't done justice to it. So we're going to have to keep working on it. But I do, if you can take your drawing and link it to this too, that's going to be very helpful. The double bed on the island in the unconscious that is surrounded by the rooted things. Now, I think what we need to have is a union with the feminine that bears fruit, or a symbol, something that is going to be transformative. Anyway, go ahead, Tim. You said anything? Okay. All right. Well, we got to keep working on Tim's dream. We'll start on Dawn's, and Ivan, yeah, thank you, Tim. That was very helpful. If Ivan, you get us a dream ready, and you're on deck. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I mean,
Yeah, thanks.
I've been since you sent them to me early, I've been just visions of sugar plums, but not really knowing what to do with them yet. So, okay. Well, we'll see you Wednesday if you're here. Okay. Bye, everybody. Okay. See you later.